Denial's Night. Jesus was arrested by the Roman soldiers and temple guards. They tied his hands and marched him to the house of Caiaphas, the high priest, the son-in-law of Annas, who had been high priest before him. It was Caiaphas who had said, "It would be better for one man to die than risk the ruin of the nation." The leading priests and teachers of the law had all been summoned to the house to interrogate Jesus, even though it was now dark. Peter and John followed at a safe distance. Then John, who was known to the high priest's household, went into the courtyard to see what was going on. John spoke to the young gatekeeper, who agreed to let Peter in too. Peter went to warm himself by the fire, and almost immediately a young woman in the household saw him and said, "Aren't you one of Jesus' followers?" Peter quickly replied, "No, I'm not." Meanwhile, inside the house, the religious leaders were trying to fabricate evidence against Jesus. There were many people who were bribed to tell lies, but they often contradicted each other, and the case did not sound convincing. Then some men said, "We heard him say that he would destroy the temple with his own hands and then rebuild it in 3 days," although even this wasn't an accurate account. Out in the courtyard, Simon was still standing by the fire, alongside some of the guards, when a second person said, "I feel sure you're one of this man's followers." And for a second time, Peter protested that he wasn't. However, to attract less attention, he moved away from the fire and stood in the shadows. Upstairs, Annas continued to question Jesus. "Why are you asking me all these things?" Jesus said. "I have always done everything openly in public meeting places and even in the temple itself. Nothing has been done in secret. Why, therefore, do you treat me so harshly?" At this, one of the guards hit Jesus in the mouth, saying, "How dare you insult the chief priest in that manner?" Caiaphas then got to his feet and said to Jesus, "Aren't you going to answer these charges? What have you to say in your defense?" But Jesus remained silent. Caiaphas then shouted, "Answer me! Are you the Messiah, the Son of God?" At this, Jesus replied, "I am, and you will see me, the Son of Man, sitting at God's right hand." Caiaphas melodramatically tore his robes to publicly show his shock at what Jesus had said, and declared, "Why do we need any other witnesses? We all heard this blasphemy. What is your verdict?" And the Sanhedrin voted unanimously for Jesus to face the death penalty. Then they spat on him, blindfolded him, and beat him repeatedly about the head, cursing him and shouting, saying, "If you're so clever, tell us who hit you." And then the guards led him away, all the while punching and hitting him. Down in the courtyard, Simon was challenged for a third time, this time by a relative of Malchus, the man whose ear Peter had cut off in the Garden of Gethsemane. He said, "You are a Galilean, aren't you? Didn't I see you in the garden with him?" Peter replied, "I swear by Almighty God that I do not know what you are talking about." And at that precise moment a cock crow was heard, and Jesus, who was being led away to Pilate's palace, looked across the courtyard at him. Peter was immediately overwhelmed with shame as he recalled Jesus' words to him at supper the previous evening. He could not bear to stay, and fled into the dark in tears. In the dead of night, a mockery of justice where falsehoods fly and friendships fail in the flickering flames of a courtyard fire. One man alone speaks truth, but visions of heaven from the Son of God bring forth blows and spit upon his face, as denial upon denial climb upwards to a cockerel's crow, to fall in deep despair and bitter tears.